So firstly, welcome. My name is Max and I work in a team to help try to attract people such as yourselves to start teaching in further education. We'll go around the FE teachers to introduce themselves when they come to the Q&A part, but I just want to quickly introduce Andrew, who's also on the line.
Thanks, Max. Hello, everyone. Great to see so many people on this webinar. So my name's Andrew King. I work in the FE workforce part of the Department for Education, and in one way or another for the last 20 years have worked within the FE sector, both within the sector itself, but also within government on various things, and currently responsible, as Matt was saying, for trying to attract more people into FE teaching. So looking forward to speaking to you, everybody, and hearing questions.
That's great. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now. I'm going to start the presentation. Um, if someone who can speak verbally, let me know if they can see that.
Yep,
Yes.
that looks good.
Fantastic. Okay, well, welcome to this Teaching Further Education webinar. We'll go through a few things to help you on your journey, whether you are starting or whether you are already sure that you want to become a further education teacher. So we will talk about what further education is, as some of you may not be too familiar with it. We will share some of the key reasons to teach in further education and to show you that that you already have the skills to teach. We'll also be talking to you about some of the support available to you so that you don't have to go on this journey alone. And we'll try to highlight some of the key reasons why you might want to become a further education teacher. Okay, so over to Andrew.
Thanks, Max. So I'm going to start off with what is further education, and the answer is it's pretty broad. So there's quite a lot of elements in relation to further education. I think the key thing to say is it's really about providing education and training for across a range of areas, whether that's technical or vocational, so across all areas of industry really, so construction, engineering, hair and beauty, catering, lots of various areas, as well as academic subjects. So you may also study A levels or English and maths within further education settings as well. And as well as being across all of those areas, it's also across a huge number of of levels. So it could be from a basic level, teaching English and maths, right through to postgraduate. You might study a postgraduate level course within a further education provider as well. The other thing to say is it's also mainly sort of older people. So you might be teaching those age 16 and over and adults, which makes it more of a kind of different environment compared to a school. So it's much more kind of sort of adult focused, if you like, much more kind of workshops rather than necessarily just classrooms, and much more kind of like trying to prepare people for work in relation to that. And I think that's part of what the attraction for learners are. They've spent a lot of time in school at the time they reach 16, and further education gives them a greater breadth of things to study and also being treated in a different way. So FE providers are not like schools. They're much more autonomous. They have much more control over their own entry requirements. They set kind of who they the entry requirements for their staff. They set their own pay structures, and so they have a lot more kind of sort of autonomy in that respect. And in terms of the actual providers themselves, there is a range of different providers that exist. So there are around 200 uh, further education colleges across the country, and these tend to be quite large institutions who are delivering the full range of provision that I mentioned before across the full range of different types of learners. There are then some more specialised colleges, whether they specialise on the basis of the type of provision. We have some land-based colleges who specialise in agriculture, for instance. There are sixth form colleges which tend to focus more on academic subjects like A levels for 16 to 19-year-olds. And then we have adult colleges as well, who are obviously providing provision specifically more targeted at adults, which can tend to be kind of more shorter provision, shorter courses targeted across a huge range of areas. We also have a large number of independent training providers, and they tend to, again, specialize more. So they tend to be potentially focused on a more specific type of curriculum, a specific subject area, but they also might be focused on delivering particularly things like apprenticeships. So apprenticeships are delivered in colleges and across different provider types, but they also particularly kind of like our focused independent training providers deliver a large proportion of those apprenticeships. Yeah, so a very whistle-stop tour in terms of what FE is, and obviously happy to take any questions on that at the end as well. But I think we can move on, Max, after playing the clip.
Yep.
Right, that feels solid now.
Good morning, Mr. Jones. It's Sharon here.
I'm making sure that I've not pinched my washer on the waist. Now, who can tell me another way that a trap would fail?
It's very important that you explain everything you're doing.
Let's now look at the CAD drawings.
Your skills are more valuable than you realise. Teaching further education alongside your current job and change lives without changing your career. Further education. Share your skills.
Right, and we're moving on now to reasons why you might consider a career in FE teaching. So, as I'll say a number of times, real world industry skills and experience are really highly valued and sought after for the FE sector. And so if you have those skills, you already have a lot of the skills that you need in order to teach in further education. And we think there are a number of reasons why you might consider a career as an FE teacher, and we've kind of flagged four main ones here. So the first being the flexibility that there is within teaching further education. There are opportunities and options to teach full-time, but there are also plenty of options to teach part-time, potentially alongside your current job, as well as on a kind of more ad hoc or sessional basis, which might give you the opportunity to kind of as more of an introduction in terms of what it's like to teach in FE. The second reason is that that you don't always need a teaching qualification or an academic degree to start teaching in further education. As I said, industry skills are really highly valued, an important part of teaching in FE, and there is opportunities to train or undertake your teacher training while you're on the job, allowing you to kind of start working in the sector more rapidly and obviously start earning straight away. The third reason, again, sort of goes back to what I said on the first slide, is around the range of different courses that are available to teach in FE. So there is a huge variation, and the need for further education teachers is growing. So there's lots of opportunities for you to identify or a role for you within further education that matches your skills and gives you the opportunity to pass them on. Which comes to kind of like the fourth reason on this slide, which is kind of what we know a lot of the existing workforce really find as a kind of important motivation in terms of teaching in FE, and that is the ability to do such a really amazing, positive and worthwhile thing about passing on your skills and knowledge and experience to the next generation, and sort of not just passing on your skills, but making a difference to the lives of the students and the learners that will come through further education, whether that's giving them the second chance where they might not have excelled within the school environment, or whether it's supporting them to make progression and move up within their own industry and in their own area. And that's both making difference to the lives of those individuals, but also making a difference and supporting the future of your industry. So that's the kind of like the 4 reasons that we've highlighted on there, but that's not to say that there aren't obviously other benefits. We know like sort of lots of other providers, further education providers will provide support for childcare, they'll provide, there are kind of pension schemes available, there are things like discount gym memberships. Further education provider is such a kind of broad church that there's lots of access to various things that are available there. In terms of typical salary, as I said before, this is determined kind of sort of by each provider in terms of their own pay structure, but typically we see salaries of between 24,000 and 40,000 a year. And there are also kind of opportunities for progression. So whether that's between providers or within the provider, kind of moving up and becoming a head of department or head of subject, but also kind of recognition of teaching expertise as part of your progression. So I'm now going to pause there, and we are going to hear from Steve, an FE plumbing lecturer, explaining to one of his former students about the support that was available for those wanting to teach in FE.
And I think people have the anxiety of being, you know, a lecturer, teacher, but they've got those skills. They've got the skills that we need in FE, and the college will support them in the other side of teaching those skills on site. So while you're teaching, you're learning to be a teacher as well, which you need to do. You need both parts of that, but the college will support you in those.
Fantastic. So we have a short little summary story from Christian, who's actually on one of the FE teachers panels, so he can answer any questions you may have. But Christian, he moved to England and opened up a business providing IT services and solutions. But he found that he had a passion for, you know, working with people and interacting with people, and he just really wanted to solve solutions. And he recognised there's a need to support those who are, you know, need to develop their skills in education. So he began a job working as a teacher in further education, and he found that he actually has, whilst he can help loads of his students, he is able to also develop himself, such as being able to improve how he interacts with people, being more patient and more observant in the ways he engages his students. For example, he's now more able to engage students who have learning disabilities. And when he started doing this, you know, it helped him to set, you know, give him sort of that ambition to continue supporting those with learning disabilities, because they actually have the passion to learn. And you know, it's just a testimony of Christian and how he, you know, wants to give every student a chance, a best chance of having a successful career. So the role of a teacher in his eyes is not just about lecturing, it's about teaching the students a way of life where they can become the best versions of themselves. And I think that's something that is the case for all types of teaching, which is just fantastic. So it's a very rewarding experience to see the students presenting the final work, and you can see all the students go up, you know, at the end of the year and just really are proud of themselves, and you know, you can't get much better than that. So thanks, Christian, for sharing his story. We'll, you know, do ask him any questions about this yourself, because it is fascinating. Okay, so you might be thinking, could you teach in further education? So we have some questions you could ask yourself. The answer is yes. But so how much experience do you have in your current industry? You might think, and apologies for the screen flickers a bit, the industry experience is invaluable and will make you a great teacher. But there's no set rule on how many years of experience you need to have. But if you've been in your company or your, you know, business for 2 years or more, few years, you'll definitely have the skills to teach in your current industry. Do you like to share the knowledge you have picked up during your career? If the answer is yes, then you'll be a great further education teacher. Anything you learn on the trade or in your firm, in your business, is invaluable, and it's current knowledge that really helps students. So they're not just learning theory, they're understanding your practical experience, which goes a long way. If you become a further education teacher, does it mean giving up your industry job? We say no. So obviously you will need to discuss different things, but you can definitely become an FE teacher alongside your industry's job or other commitments you may have. It's open to all. Do you enjoy variety where no 2 days are the same? And I think the FE teachers who are with us today will definitely say the same, that no 2 days are the same, but that's the exciting part. You know, it's always proving a bit of a challenge, but it's such an achievement seeing how the students grow. So I think you guys will really enjoy it. Are you looking to boost your career prospects? Oops, sorry, apologies. Right to the end, but don't worry. We've, as sort of alluded to, you can learn a lot from teaching, educating. So you can also give back your own knowledge, but you can also grow from from the lessons you pick up, whether that's working with other colleagues in further education or even learning from the students themselves. And in what age would be best to get into further education teaching? Really any age. There's lots of different routes into further education. There's no time too late to start further education teaching, and ultimately, as long as you've got the industry experience and the passion, you can definitely do well as a FE teacher. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Max. So yeah, just a couple of quick final slides before we can get onto questions. So the first one is around how to start teaching an FE. So hopefully you've realised you've got the invaluable experience and that you're interested in teaching an FE. So the first port of call is really to start kind of researching what jobs are available and thinking about applications. So the potential sources to be looking out for are kind of like your own local colleges and local training providers will have their own kind of job vacancies on their websites, and will also setting out what their requirements are. So that's a really good place to start. There are obviously general job searches through places like Indeed and Total Jobs, but then there are also some FE specific jobs boards that are definitely worth looking at. So FE Jobs, Association of Colleges have their own jobs board, and we'll come on to the website in a bit where all of those jobs sites, jobs boards are listed. So in terms of identifying a job, there are then potentially two different ways in which you could think about progressing into further education teaching. So one is about training on the job. So as we've said before, you don't necessarily need to have teaching qualifications, and some providers will help and support you kind of with teaching, sort of to obtain that teaching experience and teaching qualifications while you're undertaking your role in teaching. So that might be through a specific teaching qualification, or it might be through a teaching apprenticeship, but there are obviously benefits in relation to that, in as much as you can get started straight away. There's a very kind of like potentially short window between where you are now and being able to kind of make that progression into a further education teaching role, and obviously by getting support while you're teaching, you're getting that support and that training potentially paid for by your employer. The other option is obviously to train in your own time. There are a range of different teaching qualifications and providers of those teaching qualifications that you could undertake, and you might find that more attractive. You might think, well, if I get qualified now, then I'll be more attractive to a potential employer. There is bursary support that is available for some teaching qualifications that you could potentially access. And you might see it as an opportunity to get experience of teaching before actually going on and taking on a role within FE teaching. But what I would say is there's always worth thinking about what other opportunities there might be to gain experience. So your local provider, your local college might have access to sort of job shadowing or other ways of getting an insight in terms of what it's like to be an FE teacher. And they're also a really good source to understand what their requirements are. So there are a range of different potential teaching qualifications, and understanding what they would prioritise and what they would recommend a really good thing to understand. In terms of entry requirements, we've obviously touched on that they will vary between providers, but typically you can probably expect providers to expect you to have a level 2, so GCSE in English and maths, potentially a level 3 in your subject. You'd also need to undertake a kind of DBS check in terms of kind of background. But again, what I would say is that particularly those qualification requirements, there is flexibility there is variation on. So it's always worth having a conversation with any potential employer about what their requirements are. Can we move on to the final slide, Max, please? And then the final slide here is that we want to help you. We want you to help you in considering the kind of move into an FE teaching role, and there's a range of support available. So the Teaching FE website has a range of information and support available to consider a career in FE teaching, and as I said, the dedicated FE job sites are listed on that page as well. There is a support service available via email and phone, where we have a team of FE advisors who can support you with some potentially more detailed queries or more complex queries, and generally kind of support you with what your next steps are and direct you towards more information to help you make some decisions. We also have, and hopefully most of you are already subscribers to our quarterly newsletter, but if not, please go onto our website and sign up, and we will provide particularly tailored information around what to think about in terms of jobs, and we're providing a kind of themed or a theme for each newsletter to kind of give you sort of some more different information each time, and the details are there in terms of the website address and also the opening hours and the number for the call centre. So I'm going to finish there, Max. Thank you.
No, thanks very much. Don't worry if you can't see you haven't clocked the times, sorry, the website or the telephone or email address. We'll be sharing it in the chat, and do reach out. They're great. They really will help you with any questions you've got. Okay, move on to the good part now, any questions. So thank you, Andrew, for that. And apologies if the screen was a bit flickering, but we can stop sharing the screen now, and I can introduce our panelists. So we have with us today, we've got Dean, who teaches construction and bricklaying. We've got Christian, who teaches a range of website courses, including design, e-commerce and strategies, project management, and research. He does a lot. We've got Rosa, who is the Executive Dean in Engineering, Digital and Sustainable, in Engineering, Digital and Sustainable Construction. And we've got Phil, who also teaches photography. So it's great. We've got such a diverse range of FE lecturers here today. So if you have any questions, feel free to add them to the chat, and then we'll get through to them. But in the meantime, we can open up a question, and I think I'm going to direct this to Rosa to begin. What inspired you to become a FE teacher?
So I was working in manufacturing engineering. I'd been sponsored during my studies and been really well supported, and really enjoyed engineering. But actually, while I was doing my studies, I liked sort of helping my peers and helping them to learn. So I wanted to try something a bit different, and I thought I'd have a go at FE teaching. And I think as soon as I started in the classroom, I just loved it. So there was no turning back really once I'd started.
That's great, thank you. And the same question to Dean, please.
I left the military. I was in the military. I left there 4 years ago. And throughout my whole life, I've been working with children, teaching karate, coaching football, coaching rugby, and I decided that working with children was something I wanted to do. I wanted to work with the older ones and teach them a new skill. I've 37 years in the industry with bricklaying and construction, and just passing those skills on. And going back to something we said earlier, I had a slight concern that getting out of the military at 50-year-old, and is anyone going to employ me at 50-year-old? But what you're saying there about relevant trade experience and knowledge is invaluable to these students. The amount of, I was worried when I went for the interview, they said, the stories and the history you've got and the experience you've got, the kids just eat that up. They love that, and they say, "Oh, right, fantastic! It's great being old." But I was a little bit concerned. So I realise, obviously, some people that are listening to this now that are the younger end of the market, and there's people getting on a bit like me. But there's, I mean, it covers everything. But yeah, I just wanted to pass on those skills and alluding to something you said earlier there, that seeing that student achieve something 8-9 months later on down the line that they didn't have a clue with when they first walked in, and start getting stressed and want to walk out, and you learn to cope with that, and all of a sudden they're passing things, and you build them up and you go, "Oh, this is great." And to see that smile and that on that student's face, you can't beat that.
That's great. Thank you, Dean. We do have some questions coming through about specific qualifications, and I don't think the FE teachers will be able to answer them directly, but I do know the support service will be able to ask them. We do have some questions that we can try run by Andrew, but it might be best talking to the support services. Apologies we don't get them answered. So another question, and I'm going to direct this to Christian, is how did you feel when you first became a FE teacher?
Can you hear me? Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, I was a little bit nervous. I don't know why, because all the time when I was in different jobs, I was training people anyway. So that's where I started, okay, I can do this, right? And my existing boss came to me and said, "Christian, would you like to teach with us?" I was quite lucky in that sense. I didn't have to go for the whole process of trying to look for a job and things like that. I was actually studying here in the college, trying to get a qualification to improve myself. But after I finished, she proposed to me to see if I can work with them. So I said, yes, I can teach these particular subjects. And she said, that's perfect. So she accommodated to me, and technically I started from there. And that's when I started to say, okay, yes, I can do this for them. And I fell in love on doing that, because you can see a diverse of students, a diverse of people, how they start learning, how some people retain the information, how other people doesn't retain the information. And that's something that it actually grabbed me very much, and start just doing what I do now. I'm trying to do the best I can. I share my experiences and all my knowledge with them.
That's great. Thank you, Christian. We'll try and ask a question, and it's quite a broad one. So I won't ask specifically anyone, but how would you determine industry relevance? What do you think? Like, interpret that? It's quite a broad question, that one. But if anyone would like to give it a go.
For me to, I think what we normally would look at is the sorts of qualifications that we need to deliver, and it's normally a conversation with the applicants, you know, as to what they've got to offer. So it will vary according to the sector, the level. So for example, something that our college do, often run open evenings for people interested in teaching at the college. You can just come in and have a chat, let us know what you've been doing, what sorts of things you'd be interested in teaching, and then we can see if we can sort of match that up with some of our teaching. So it's pretty broad, and because we teach across almost every sector that you can think of, depending on the college or the provider, you can normally find somebody that a provider that's doing something that you could add value to.
Great, thank you. Yeah, tough question, but really helpful. I do see a quick question here that can retired teachers start teaching in further education? And yes, that is the answer to that. You can definitely do explore it. And I suppose if you've already been a teacher, it's probably an even easier process for you. So I'm going to ask Phil a question. And Phil, I hope your camera is working, but not a problem if not. Did you have any previous industry experience before teaching your photography? And if so, how have you found your journey as an FE teacher? How has it helped you shape the classes you do and your lessons?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Excellent. No, apologies for not being able to see me. My camera's not working, which is quite ironic for a photographer. So basically, yeah, my industry experience I worked on a cruise ship as a photographer. I worked as a freelance photographer, getting work published. I worked as a wedding photographer, portrait photographer, and that all has helped me working alongside my students. I get them work experience in local studios. I've actually sent students abroad to places like Berlin to have work experience where they've worked in studios as well, which is great for FE students from quite a poor background in Dudley. So, I mean, I absolutely love teaching alongside my own practice. For me, it's about nurturing talents. It's about building confidence and self-esteem, creating a sense of belief, thinking big with them. So straight away, we do big projects with big exhibitions and try and get work published and exhibited straight away with our level 3 first years. I get students, previous students, to come back once they're in industry and once they're actually, you know, either a freelance or working in a studio, to come back and do talks to inspire the next generation. I get previous students also to apply to PGCE, postgraduate certificate in education, once they've done a degree after me, to come back, and then I will mentor them through that. I just wanted to tell you a little story. I have one student called Ellie last year. She was bullied at school and she left school at the age of 14 with no qualifications. I managed to get her on to level 3 and she's now studying at UAL, which is second highest in the world for photography in the arts. You know, that's what makes it so worthwhile, seeing students, seeing the trajectory from those that felt at school like a failure, or they didn't fit in, or they were bullied, to give them a sense of belief. And really, I think FE is where we can change lives. You know, I think it's such a powerful thing, and I just love to be a part of that, really.
Oh, that's great, Phil, and thank you for sharing this story. Yeah, it's incredible, and the FE teachers really do change lives. Or, you know, it's amazing what they do. Do have a question, and more directed at Andrew, perhaps, but do you know who is the best person to contact at a local FE college regarding roles or work experience?
Yeah, thanks, Max. And I think the difficulty here is that obviously practices might differ between different colleges. But what I would say is, visit the college website, go to like the vacancies page. In most occasions, I'm sure there'll be an option to register an interest, or there'll be a contact email that you can contact and ask to be added to mailing lists and information about open evenings. That what Rosa said is common. There are lots of colleges do offer open evenings. They want to kind of encourage people to think about potential careers in FE. So please do, yes, I would say that's probably the best port of call, is to visit your local college website, go to the job vacancies section of that website, and I'm sure there'll be a contact or somewhere where you'll be able to register an interest or make contact with that college and ask to be added to any email sort of mail out with regards to those sorts of things.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, do explore. Everything's a bit different, but yeah, there'll be someone there to help. Rosa, I've got a question for you, if you don't mind. Can you tell me about what the career progression is like? If there is one, you know, feel free to talk about your own experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I found within a couple of years of sort of getting my teaching qualification and sort of doing a full-time job, I was able to opt and volunteer or put myself forward for other responsibilities. So to begin with, that was around supporting other teachers to develop their own teaching. So that was a sort of additional responsibility that I could pick up. And then I started sort of being course manager for some courses. Started moving up, I became head of engineering, moved across into something a bit different, looking after apprentices, again as a promotion, and then I'm just about to start as an executive dean, looking after and building a new school for engineering, digital and construction. So I've been able to move through. I'm still teaching, which is what I love, but also doing other things as well. I've also created an Institute of Technology, working with employers. That's chaired by Carl Arnson, who is the CEO of Worcester Bosch, working very closely with him, looking at what we need to do for engineers. So yeah, I've had lots of different opportunities to do all sorts of things, and network with other colleagues from different colleges as well. So yeah, lots of opportunities. It just depends what comes up and what you're interested in. There's always something to have a look at and do.
That's great. Yeah. So loads of career progression. And also you can just remain as an FE teacher, that you can shape it however you like. I do have a question for Christian, if that's okay. Do you have a particular fond memory that you will cherish as a FE teacher?
Yes, I have this student. On my eyes, he was pretty good on what he was doing and he was learning. But he had a terrible battle with himself. He was all the time saying, no, I don't know this, I don't want to do this, I'm fed up, I'm stressed out, and all these sort of things, very negative with himself. So bit by bit, we started getting to know each other. And I said to him, look, the way I see that you're doing the work, you're doing quite a decent job, but you are not doing exactly what we're asking you to do. You're derailing to something else all the time. So no, start in focus. I know that you're saying, yeah, you're stressed, you had an issues at home, everybody has things to do. Just focus in one thing for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then it starts going to the next one, and then it starts going to the next one. Trust me, I said to him, we just plain words, trust me, we can work this together. Let's get do this first, and then we see what happens next. Can you do that for me? And he was, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do that for you. So after 5-10 minutes, he managed to do that task. And actually, he finished before everybody else, which I was, okay. He's just bluffing against a little bit there. So when I started checking his work, I said, oh, that's pretty good. And I said to him, do you mind if I can share this to everyone? Because I'm working in IT, so we're using computers in the classroom. So he said, yeah, perfect. Send it to me. He sent it to me through Teams, and I put it on the big screen, actually like the one you can see at the back. And everybody saw it. And I said, could you explain it to him? And he went all scared and said, don't worry, if you don't want it, I can do it. I said, no, I do it. And he started explaining to him, and everybody says, oh yeah, that's great, and everything, you know. And from that moment, he changed his attitude completely. Just by start for the little thing, just focusing one little thing, 5-10 minutes, instead of derailing and thinking in everything else. And I think that just spot on me and say, come on, if he can do it that way, everybody else can do it as well. And that's something that I really, really, really cherish, because he changed not only his way, he changed the ways of many of the students, because it's coming from them. You see, it's coming from a student to another student. And I always remember that. And I always try to pick up some student here and there which done something really good, so that way they can show it to everybody else as well, and learn it from there more than from me at the same time. Yeah, that's great.
Max, could I add something to that as well, just very briefly, if you don't mind?
Yeah, please do. Yeah, definitely.
Because I think for me, I mean, I've taken students to India, Iceland, Berlin, France, etc. And sometimes people see that as a jolly, but it can be so transformative to the students. For instance, I had 2 students, very poor students, Callum and Kane. They were past students at best, very disorganized, difficult home life. And I sent them to Berlin for 3 months work experience. Everyone said I was crazy. They came back, transformed characters, class reps. I'm going to university now. Now they're at Staffordshire University and thriving. And so that kind of changed their lives. And just a couple of points I wanted to make. Collaboration and kindness are such key things for me in terms of Dix uses this term, deliberate botheredness. If we show that we're relentlessly kind and never give up on a student, I think that's so important. The sort of zero tolerance for any put downs and having belief in them, it rubs off so well. And collaboration, we're making like cookbooks with the catering department, and we're making a book for the zoo, because Dudley Zoo over the road, I work at Dudley. we've made a zoo for them to sell, a book for them to sell in the shop that my students have made. So it's, you know, we're making industry links in those ways and collaborating with our graphic design department, business department. So just wanted to make the point, collaboration and kindness and trips are important in FE. Thanks.
Wow, that'd be amazing as a student.
I agree.
Thanks for chipping in, Phil.
Cheers.
I have a question for Dean, if that's okay. What advice would you give someone who is open to exploring becoming a FE teacher?
Well, I think we've covered it. It's finding out where the information is. All the information's in the chat here. Finding out where your local college provider is. There was colleges around me, but not necessarily teaching my qualifications with the experience that I had. So you might have to push further afield. But yeah, all the information's out there. Just go and have a look at it, and then and take the plunge. Like I say, you don't have to do it full time, so you can do it part time. And if it's not for you, it's just exact same we have with the students at the college. We at the college here, we have a flying start. The first 6 weeks, if that student, if attending after a couple of weeks, doesn't feel that that's the course of them, then there's the opportunity to change. So do the same thing. Go there. Spend a couple of days, a day a week, a couple of days a week, whatever your industry allows you, whatever you can afford to do yourself, go in there and give it a taste. Until you dip your toe in, you don't really know.
Yeah, exactly. Just challenge yourself, but explore. You'll be fine. I probably have time for 2 more questions. Apologies that we haven't been able to get through all the questions today. Like we said, there is support services which Laura has already shared contact information to. We do have a question, probably again directed to Andrew. Is how open are FE institutions on supporting teacher training, such as PGCEs, or are we better to get that themselves first? So should they do a PGCE or teaching qualification beforehand, or could they do it alongside?
So I think my response would be that most FE colleges will be used to supporting and training people who don't have experience of teaching, in terms of giving them the skills and giving them the qualifications to teach. So I would be surprised if most of them aren't open to provide that support and provide that opportunity. That's not to say that every role in every college will be open to everybody who doesn't have a teaching qualification. Some of them will probably prioritize and want them to have a teaching qualification. So I'm not saying that every role will be available to everybody, but certainly in terms of colleges across the country, there will be opportunities for you to go to that college and be able to train while you're working at that college to gain the teaching skills that you need. And I think we've heard examples and heard where people have been able to do that themselves without having to go and fund their own training and train in advance of starting at a college.
Great, thank you. Okay, I think we've got time for one question. Apologies that we couldn't go to the hands up. I think that's a lesson for us to learn next time. And we'll also give a lot more time for the Q&A because it's proven to be so popular. But here's the last question, and I'm going to open it up to the panelists because there might be someone who's more relatable to the question. But what are the challenges in becoming an FE teacher when you might be used to working in the commercial world? Happy for anyone to give that a go.
Paperwork.
I think obviously the first challenge is the audience. We're working with the younger audience. We're working with 16, 17, 18-year-olds. We could have adult courses, but if you're predominantly working that age, so there's the difference that you're working with the younger market. But I think the students I say to them, now you're 17, 18, you are a young adult. I'm going to treat you like an adult. And sometimes that's a wow factor from, oh, this is so different from school. I'm being treated like an adult, and you see a change in there. So yeah, I think for me, it's the age that you're working with is relatable to commercial that way.
It can, just to add, it can vary. So Dean's obviously working predominantly with 16 to 18. I mainly work with older students, so 18 plus and right the way up to sort of in their 50s as well. So depending on where you are, depends on what age group of learners you've got, which is also quite nice to sort of come across different sort of people you can teach as well.
Indeed, and the difference of ages is you have to teach it slightly different. So that's kind of a challenge, but at the same time is a good challenge, because it teaches you yourself how to manage people, how to deal with people as well.
Great, thank you. Phil, you're open to you if you want to add a comment as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've covered it really, you guys. Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, I think you've covered it really. I mean, if you wanted to ask another specific question, I'm happy to, you know, if anything else, but I think you guys have covered it really.
Fantastic, thank you. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. I know people have places to be, but thank you everyone for joining. It's been great seeing so many of you really invested in the idea of teaching in further education, and I want to say a big thank you to all the FE teachers and lecturers and directors here. So thank you for taking the time to do this. Yes, we weren't able to answer some more complex questions such as specific qualifications. Do feel free to reach out to my email address and I'll do my best to direct you in the right area as well. Laura has also shared some contact information of the support services if you want some more in-depth like conversations, maybe one-to-one or via emails. But a huge thank you for everyone for being involved, and everyone have a good evening.
You too.
Thanks, Max. Thanks, everybody. It's a great job. It's challenging, but it's worth it. It's the most rewarding job in the world. It can be. Thanks,
Come and
everybody.
join us. Come on in. Come on in.
It's good. It
Yeah,
keeps
come
you
and
busy
join us, folks.
and out of troubles.
Yeah, absolutely. Great talking with you all, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you all.